Today's lecture will be conducted by Professor Akashi Hideto. He is professor at Komazawa University in the metropolitan Tokyo area, Japan. And the title of his talk is The Redevelopment of Tokyo Metropolitan Area and Marx Theory of Ground Rent. Okay. I'd like to ask you to share your PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Just a moment. Can you see?
So we can see.
Okay. 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 Thank you for kind introduction. My name is Hideto Akashi. I'm very honored to speak here. Can I continue or
How would you like to proceed? Would you, the audience, would you like me to interpret his presentation, or shall we continue in English?
Yeah, it's a little difficult. Okay.
Okay. Let me ask this question to the audience in Korean. 아카시 선생님의 영어 강연을 한글로 통역을 하는 것이 필요하실지, 안 그러면 PPT 보시면서 영어로 그냥 진행하실지 여러분들께 좀 여쭤도 될까요?
선생님께 제가 그 선생님 그 제안을 가로채서 말씀드려도 되겠습니까?
네.
이건 순전히 제 생각인데요.
네.
제 생각인데 이제 텍스트는 우리가 영어로 보지만
네.
지금 김비영 선생님도 일어를 잘하시고 또
네.
일본에 계시는 서 선생님도 잘하시고 그래서 제 생각은 만일에 아카시 히데토 교수님께서 본인이 동의하신다면 그냥 1어로 하고
아이고.
1어를 우리 한글로 번역하는 것은 또 어떤가 하는 생각이 듭니다.
선생님, 그거는 제가
예.
1어로
알겠습니다.
텍스트를 보지 않았기 때문에
그렇습니까?
네,
예.
지금 1어로 통역하는 건 어렵습니다. 그래서
예.
네,
예, 알겠습니다.
그러면 그냥 영어로 진행을 할까요? 안 그러면 한글 통역을 해드릴까요?
그냥 천천히 다 텍스트도 있으니까
네.
영어로 이제 하시고요. 그러니까 나중에 질의응답할 때 이제 그 선생님께서 이제 좀 통역 도와주시면
네,
좋을 것
알겠습니다.
같습니다.
네네. Professor Akashi, just to explain what has been happening, Mr. Zhang asked me to translate your your presentation in Japanese, and I told him since I have not seen the Japanese text, it would be quite difficult. Then Professor Zhang has suggested us to proceed slowly in English. And for the Q&A session, when there are questions from the audience, then I'll be more than happy to interpret. Would it be agreeable with you?
Okay.
Thank you.
I speak slowly as much as possible.
Yes.
Okay, and I can continue.
Yes,
to
please.
speak. Okay.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much. I have 7 sections today, and I know my PowerPoint is too long, so I have to skip many slides, but I want to know the similarity and the difference between Korea and Japan regarding real estate markets. And I'm showing today's contents. First, we can see the trend of the price of real estate in the Tokyo metropolitan area. And second, let's see the unity of the public and private sectors for the redevelopment projects in Tokyo. The third one is capital flow into the real estate sector, the securitization of real estate. I guess all of you are the expert on this topic, securitization. And the fourth, mass theory of monopoly price and interest on the capital into the land. Okay. The slide cannot move. What happened?
Please give me 1 second. I think it has something to do with allowing all the participants to share. Oh, actually, you are allowed to share screen and maneuver the pages. So could you please try it again?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. The fifth section is the change of industrial structure. I want to emphasize the change of land use by using Adam Smith's theory. And I want to emphasize the relationship between absolute rent and building site rent. The sixth section is highlights of the capital incorporated into the land. I investigated in section 4. The section 7, the conversion of land use and reallocation of total social labor in the global city of Tokyo. This, I can skip this slide. Section 1, from section 1 to section 3, let's see a basic overview of the market of real estate. And from section 4 to 5, where I will use Marx's concepts such as monopoly price, absolute rent, and so on. And at the end of my talk, I will show you an analysis of the current situation up to 2025 March by using point of view which Marx had offered, and contemporary scholars such as David Harvey and Saskia Sassen showed. First, I want to mention Marx's description in the chapter 23, the general law of capitalist accumulation. He said, for a full elucidation of the law of accumulation, his conditions outside the workshop must also be looked at. His conditions as to food and dwelling. My topic, my presentation today is related to dwelling. And let's see the figure 1. The blue line is the declared value of residential land from 1983 to 2024. That is called declared value of residential land, but in fact, this means the price of land in Tokyo. And orange line, this is the average price of newly built condominiums. In USA, the highlights building for residents. It is called condominiums. In UK, it is called apartment. But let's use condominiums today. And we can different trends between them, blue and orange. This is a period of bubble economy in Japan around 1990. Rapid increase and rapid decrease. And this year is very important, 2013. From this year, Abenomics, so-called Abenomics started. That means monetary policy of low interest rate policy. It began. And the average price of land increasing, but the average price of newly built condominiums quickly increasing. I already said since 2013, the land price have been rising due to the start of extraordinary monetary easing policy. This is called Abenomics. But they are still much lower than the price level of bubble economy period. If we pay attention to the price of newly built condominiums in Tokyo, which are closely related to redevelopment of projects, we can find a different trend between blue and orange line. The average price of all condominiums per 75 quadrat meter was 96.6 million yen, which meant 11.8 times higher than the average annual income of working households in the metropolitan area. It's very hard to buy these condominiums. And the average rent of condominiums was also the most expensive in 2024 June since 2004. It's a basic trend. But on the other hand, the number of units of newly built condominiums put on the market in 2024 decreased 30.5% from the previous year. It was the least since 1973. And I want to emphasize the factor of speculation here. The difference between the average price and the median price of these units of condominiums was 32.8 million yen, which had never existed even in the bubble economy period around 1990. It indicates the strong speculative character of the market for condominiums, highly built condominiums. I guess in Korea, we can see similar situation in the city center of Seoul. Section 2. Regarding this topic, David Harvey is very famous. The feature of large-scale redevelopment projects in megacities around the world is, David Harvey described, the monopoly of real estate of advantageous locations and the construction of skyscraper and urban infrastructure, as well as the absorption of capital surplus by the effect of speculation. In Japan, this type of business is very popular, especially in Tokyo too. The redevelopment projects especially mean to combine some properties into the large one. This is a basic. Land developers negotiate with many property owners and get their agreements regarding these projects. Some parts of the cost of those projects are paid by subsidies from the local government. In this mean, land developers and local governments made an alliance in order to proceed with the development projects. If the deregulation of construction standards, especially floor area ratio, is approved by the local government, it leads to an increase of landed developers' profitability. This is the most famous strategy of landed developers. The other actor in the development of projects is the government. From the perspective of local governments, if the residents in new condominium increase, huge tax revenue can be generated in the short term. It can be said that local governments are competing with each other for gathering residents by constructing high-rise condominiums. It's easy way for regional local governments. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government, TMG, strategically deregulated the construction standard concerning floor areas ratio and induced large-scale private redevelopment projects, mainly in the city center. The number of such redevelopment projects in Tokyo, it is above 6 times more than other big cities like Osaka, Nagoya, and so on. As mentioned above, the number of new built condominiums on sale in the 23 wards of Tokyo is decreasing due to rising labor costs and building materials costs. The price of condominiums becomes expensive, but the number of new built condominiums on sale is decreasing due to cost problem. And due to the policy change of the interest rate from March 2024, it would be quite possible that a lot of payment delays, deterioration of cash flow, delays in construction or delivery of properties, etc. may happen. If these disturbing elements become serious and reach a certain critical point beyond the limit of elasticity of the full reproduction process, it would not only lead to the slump of the real estate sector, but also bring about a general crisis. I use Kuruma's theory, which Professor Johnson Jean likes. The third section. securitization of real estate. An important change nowadays is the securitization of real estate as a factor of financial innovation. To put it simply, the securitization of real estate has two aspects. Number one, the securitization of loan receivables secured by real estate. Number two, the securitization of income or capital gain raised or earned by the fund which is invested in real estate. Two types of securitization. The first one, we can see the residential mortgage-backed security (RMBS) and the commercial mortgage-backed securities (CMBS). These securities came from USA. The Japanese MBS were modeled on that of USA and were institutionalized from the 2000s. How about in Korea? Please teach me later. In the early 2000s, the Japanese government decided to change its policy from direct financing by a governmental financial institution, JHLC, to supporting securitization of mortgage. Policy change in the early 2000s. This type of mortgage accumulated the total sum of this mortgage came to 18.5 trillion yen. The scale is very huge. The amount of RMBS, residential mortgage-backed securities, that this is a kind of special purpose corporation. It issued was 766.2 billion yen in 2023. Its issuing balance was 14.5 trillion yen at the end of 2023. Yeah, its scale is very huge. We can say so. The private banks can be partially free from the risk of long-term credit, as well as removed its risk of credit, removed it from their balance sheets, which means the increase of capital adequacy ratio. Moreover, they can enlarge the mortgage with variable interest rates. The strong demand for housing in metropolitan area is supported by the housing loan with low interest rate. I should skip this slide. And the second type of the securitization, it means the securitization of income or capital gain raised or earned by the fund. As for so-called private real estate funds, their framework consists in that they, real estate funds, collect money from investors, borrow the money to leverage their funds, and purchase advantageous real estate for income gain or capital gain. This gain is distributed to investors. Such funds earn success fees and management fees, etc. And the more properties they acquire and manage or sell at high prices, the more fees they can earn, as you know. Moreover, we can see the investment trust in Japan. The investment trust with securitization of real estate has been expected along with stock and bond, national bond, for example, to transfer huge Japanese bank savings to investment. This is the direction Japanese government to proceed with. In 2001, the trading of J-REIT, Japan Real Estate Investment Trust, began at the Tokyo Stock Exchange market. J-REIT. J-REIT has 57 brands at the end of December 2024. The average of their expected dividend yields was 5.50%. It's relatively high, and about 4% higher than that of the 10-year national bond at that time. Of course, it's attractive for investors. The size of aggregate fair market value of the J-REIT has recently expanded. However, the expected dividend yields have been rising in recent years. It means this transaction is a little risky for investors. This is a trend. This ball, orange ball, the total sum of J-REITs fair value prices, fair value. And the blue line is the expected yield of dividends. As you can see, the volatility is large because this blue line is changing up and down very quickly. The total sum is increasing gradually. Volatility is very high. It means risky transactions. And in this slide, I showed details of J-REIT, but let's concentrate on the third topic. 44.7% of all properties owned by J-REITs existed in the 23 wards of Tokyo at the end of 2024. We can see the concentration in Tokyo. We will skip. We have already seen two types of securitizations. It is concerning real estate. They are acknowledged to be the result of financial innovation and are promoting real estate investment. They are expected to liquidate assets and disperse risks of investment. And they are two types of securitization are nothing more than the makeup of what Marx called fictitious capital in Chapter 5 of Capital, Volume 3. If payments of loan or rent are delayed, the price of securitization commodities may suffer a loss. It means a possibility of crisis. As Marx stated, it is self-evident that when the whole process rests on credit, a credit crisis involving a lack of the means of payment must break out if credit is withdrawn and only cash payment is accepted. We see such a situation in 2008 or 9 during the Great Crisis. I mean, Lehman shock. It's called in Japan Lehman shock or subprime shock and so on. And the public-private, sorry. No. Sorry. The private-public joint development projects have been in full swing since the 2000s. They have attracted huge amounts of money from domestic and foreign investors through the securitization of real estate, which was an attempt to break away from the stagnation after the bubble period in Japan. In this case, which perspective can Marx's theory of ground rent provide for analyzing this phenomenon? This is the most important topic I want to talk about, but probably I have 20 minutes.
Yes, about 20 minutes. You can take your time because
you.
we are saving time for the translation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I want to use the theory of ground rent, especially about interest on the capital incorporated into the land. It can be said that Marx considered ground rent by distinguish it into three categories: differential rent, absolute rent, and monopoly rent. Last year, January, I visited Seoul and I talked about these three categories. Today, I cannot explain in detail regarding three categories, but in the case of building sites, their location is extremely important. As Harvey pointed out, various factors such as the improvement of transportation network can significantly change location conditions. When we consider the building site rents and land prices in urban areas, we should position differential rent as the basis. Differential rent is the basis, and then consider monopoly rent as a deviation from the basis through speculation and other factors. This is my basic understanding. And let us first consider interest on the capital incorporated into the land. David Harvey emphasized the monopoly price of the land in good locations and recognized high-rise buildings as a place to absorb excess capital. However, he did not seem to mention interest on the capital incorporated into the land in this context. Marx made it clear that the price of land is a capitalized form of ground rent. That is the sum for which the annual income of ground rent is divided by the average rate of interest. But many confused economists reversed this relationship. According to their view, the capital of purchased land can bring interest in the form of rent. This means the confusion of ground rent in general. Marx criticized its understanding. Moreover, Marx criticized a mixed categorization on ground rent in a introduction section. It is quite important to distinguish ground rent proper from non-proper rent. The latter includes interest on the capital incorporated into the land, which means the so-called lease fee for improved soil, buildings, irrigation facilities, etc. It is completely different as a concept from the interest generated by interest-bearing capital. Marx mentioned it in Chapter 5 of Capital Volume 3. However, all these factors are mixed and appear to compose ground rent proper. Due to such confusion, landowners can overcharge farmers at the renewal contract. In other words, farmers had to pay too much as a rent. Marx said, quotation, "When the new lease contract is concluded, the landowner adds interest on the capital incorporated into the earth to the ground rent proper. His rent thus swells, or if he plans to sell the land, its value has now risen. He does not sell just the land, but rather the improved land, the capital incorporated into the earth, which has cost him, landowner, nothing. When the contract expires," quotation, "the capital incorporated into the land belongs to the landowner's property. If the contract is renewed, the landowner often set a new ground rent, which includes other various elements than ground rent proper, due to the confusion regarding ground rent, as we had already seen. Due to this confusion concerning ground rent, it becomes difficult to recognize the transformation of surplus profit into ground rent through land ownership. It is possible that land ownership would be linked to various extra charge. One example is the insurance premium mixed into the rent price that Engels listed in the housing program. It means rent is expanded by being linked to even some factors that should be distinguished from the ownership itself. I mean, insurance is quite different from the ownership itself, but it is included into ground rent. Once they are fixed and justified as normal rent based on ownership, it can lead to a situation in which surplus profits are obtained by setting the arbitrary rents, and which comes to be generally accepted sooner or later, due to the confusion regarding the concept of ground rent. Some years ago, I made a presentation about platform capitalism, and it is called rent capitalism, and so on. By considering such a situation regarding ground rent, we can get a clue for understanding the overcharge of rent by the business of platform capitalism in the current situation. Marx mentioned the height of the houses built by tenants of land in the section in this context. Since rental income increases in proportion to the height of the building, the new rent after the expiration of contract will also rise. But the building belongs to landowner after the expiration of contract. This is the fifth section. I want to see just one phrase. Marx said, where society considered as a consumer pays too much for agricultural products. This is including ground rent. That's why we pay too much for agricultural products. This is a minus for the realization of labor time in agricultural products, but it now forms a plus for one part of society, the owners of the land. That's why a minus and a plus minus zero as a in the society as a whole. This shows a value transfer in the society. At least in this context of value transfers, his theory of ground rent is based on his theory of value. The fact is that the minus of the realization of social labor time is transferred to the plus of landowners. We can apply this grasp of value transfers to the monopoly price and rent of the property with good locations. It is only the quantitative scale of the value transfer that we should deal with in an analysis of actual competition. What I want to say is that we can analyze monopoly price of real estate by the Marx theory of value, basically. And it is also necessary to consider the relationship between agricultural and other industrial sectors in the context of dynamic changes in their productivity. I want to emphasize this point. In this sense, we can say that Marx's theory of ground rent includes a perspective concerning the dynamic changes in land use and industrial structure. By investigating Marx's theory of ground rent, we can discuss the changes in land use and industrial structures based on his theory of value. I think it's important. And this change in land use or industrial structure, this process is accompanied by an increase in productivity in each industrial sector, which causes big changes in the industrial structure. Agriculture is one of the most fundamental sectors that regulate land use. Marx dealt with this topic in his theory of ground rent. In this context, Marx praised Smith's argument, quotation. It is one of Adam Smith's great services that he showed how the ground rent for capital applies to the production of products which are not general means of subsistence. For example, industrial crops, independent stock raising, etc. It's determined by the ground rent yielded by capital invested in the production of the main means of subsistence. And as far as land for building, not agriculture, building, is concerned, Adam Smith has discussed how the basis of its rent As with all non-agricultural land, it's governed by agricultural rent proper. Agricultural rent proper is basic to determine the rent for building site. In other words, the condition for conversion from agricultural production to building construction is that the prices of products are high enough to gain more surplus profit than the case the land were used for agricultural production. Of course, this means the change of land use and its condition for this conversion. In Marx's manuscript, okay, I mentioned this point later. I used his manuscript from Mega. And in this context, we must pay attention to the absolute rent. And Marx said, if the average composition of agricultural capital was the same as that of the average social capital, or even higher, the result would be the disappearance of absolute rent. He mentioned the disappearance of absolute rent. What does it mean? Sorry. If organic composition of agriculture increases as much as manufacturing industry, absolute rent will disappear. Marx, according to Marx's explanation. This process means that agricultural capitalists with low productivity would drop out. It is a noteworthy issue today that the mechanization and the large-scale farming in the agricultural sector has been already developed, and the absolute rent from it might disappear. This issue is that as the productivity of the agricultural sector increases, less competitive agricultural capital moves to other sectors. The allocation of total social labor and land use will change with the equalization of the profit rate of each sector. We can see the dynamic movement of capital and labor force through the equalization of the profit rate among industrial sectors. Marx's manuscript in Mega, we can see. He mentioned building site rent just after explaining the disappearance of absolute rent in the context of the change of the organic composition of agriculture sector. This writing procedure is quite different of Engels' version. That's why I want to emphasize the significance of his manuscript in Mega 242. I got this viewpoint from the investigation of Marx's manuscript. Yeah, this is related to land use or productivity conversion from agricultural land to building site and so on. Okay, let's return to current situation. Real estate funds and land developers are always trying to increase the value of real estates. Value, so-called value. It does not mean the value in the Marx theory's meaning. By various means, this value can include some elements other than the value that is objectified or transferred through the construction process. that is in the math theory of value. For example, the nice view from the upper floors, the interior design, and the brand series of condominiums are also recognized to be value added. That means the capital incorporated into the land or into the building in usual understanding regarding real estate. From an ordinary understanding, these elements should generate interest and are included in ground rent. Of course, that means confusion from the perspective of Marx and its capitalized form as land price. The total expected income from a property will basically increase in proportion to the height of the building. Let's see the data regarding land price and floor area ratio. This is 23 wards of Tokyo. As you know, the central ward is Chiyodaku. Chiyodaku has the most highest floor area ratio and the most expensive land price. I want to say two indicators, blue pole and green line, they are correlated, basically, correlation. But for example, in Minato area, Minato ward, this ward is famous because it's a sophisticated district or many TV talents is living there. This is, how can I say? And blue pole is a little too high. I guess this means the situation bubble through the speculation activity. As I already said, Chiyoda ward shows an exceptionally high declared land price and the estimated floor area ratio at the highest, that is nearly 700%. It means the height of building is very high. It can be said that these two indicators, land price and floor area ratio, are closely correlated. However, we can see the deviation from the correlation, for example, in Minato ward, as we already seen, which can mean the situation of speculation or bubble. I emphasize correlation between two indicators. By this viewpoint, we have the calculation method, which is called the income capitalization method. If I have enough time, I want to explain in detail, but I have a little time. After confused. I want to emphasize it is the most basic dimension that the expected profits from high-rise buildings are calculated after confusing the interest on the capital incorporated into the land. Many factors are mixed into the ground rent. And land prices tend to rise, and the resale of real estate increases, especially under the low interest rate. This fundamental attracts speculative money through securitization that has overflowed due to monetary easing policy. Last section. In 1970, Tokyo was still a factory city. The number of employees in the manufacturing sectors amounted to over 30%. As Machimura alleged, he used the theory of Sasuke-Sassen. The basic factors supporting a global city as a hub of the global economy was a multinationalization of manufacturing process and globalization of finance. Therefore, the number of workers of tertiary industry quickly increased in Tokyo. It is important, as Sasuke Sassen emphasized, that there has been a polarization within the service sector. And the number of second sectors decreased, and the third service sector has increased, but we can see polarization. On the one hand, the concentration of headquarters of transnational and financialized corporations that have consulting manager and legal advisor and so on. On the other hand, there are essential jobs such as cleaning and security service in high-rise building, food preparation and delivery services, etc. They are often unstable and low-paid jobs. We can also see a decisive income gap here. Tokyo's population temporarily declined after the bubble period from 1992 to 1995, reaching approximately 11.7 million. After then, it significantly increased and exceeded 14 million in 2019. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, it slightly decreased just in 2022, but it is still increasing since 2023. However, this is important. The population in Tokyo is expected to reach a peak in 2030. And the breakdown of recent land use. The land of factory is decreasing 13.9%. And the residential land and office store land is increasing slightly. By seeing this data, I want to see the changes in industrial structure and land use and allocation of total social labor. This is a breakdown of building floor area by use. Factory is decreasing, and residential office building floor area is increasing more than land use. That means high-rise building. Conclusion. Finally, we can comprehensively understand the significant change of Japanese economy since the end of the 20th century by revisiting the perspective of Marx's manuscript on ground rent. It means that the movement of capital and labor power among industrial sectors proceeded with the conversion of land use and the construction of high-rise building. Tokyo is small place, so we have to construct high-rise buildings. It led to the concentration of people and money in Tokyo and the fixation of gaps concerning assets and income between rich and poor. In this context, we can probably properly grasp the development projects, which include specific factors such as deregulation of floor area ratios, securitization of real estate, and so on. Now, after the collapse of bubble economy, huge projects in Tokyo have been carried out in a kind of special economic zone by the unity of the government and the private sector. However, it could not bring out a breakthrough from the stagnation of the Japanese economy since 1990. But it expanded the room for speculation. Today, there are some intensified factors that disrupt the economic reproduction process, such as labor power shortage and expensive prices of construction materials. It can be said that a necessary condition for the success of these overheated projects is a perpetual influx of population from other regions and abroad into Tokyo. But even the population in Tokyo is expected to begin to decline in a few years if we consider the risk of various disasters, natural disasters, and the extreme technical difficulty of reconstructing high-rise buildings, which have been once constructed. Redevelopment projects in Tokyo must be recognized as an unsustainable, localized, and limited economic stimulus measure. In this talk, I want to emphasize a new approach by using Marx's manuscripts in order to discuss the development project. Of course, today we have seen the basic data or information, but I guess I could show you new approach from Marx's manuscript. That's all from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Sensei, thank you very much.
Sorry.
I think you can close
Yeah.
the PPT presentation file.
Yeah. How can I do? Sorry, I have forgotten.
File close or stop sharing.
Yeah. I'm trying, but I have forgotten how to do it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
As the moderator of your interesting
Thank you
talk
very much.
today, I'd like to start first by making a confession that I know very little about real estate redevelopment, and your incorporation of Marx's analysis of rent values was something new to me. So I learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And in particular, differential, absolute, and monopoly rents in Marx's categorization,
Yeah.
I think were very relevant for today's situation.
Yes.
As the chair, I like to start by asking you a question and make a comparative observation between Japan and Korea.
Yeah.
And first, my question is that unlike Korea, which has very, very soul-centric and soul-concentrated development,
Yeah.
Japan has other big cities like Osaka, Nagoya, Fukuoka, and the important year of 2013 when the Abenomics started.
Yeah.
The policy, I think, had national impact, not just on Tokyo. And my question is, why do we get to witness this heavy concentration of capitalization by engaging in real estate redevelopment projects? How about other parts of Japan around the big cities, other big cities? That's my first question.
Thank you.
And let me interpret my comment in Japanese for the audience. 저기 문외한으로서 그 아카시 선생님의 강연을 듣고 많이 배웠는데요. 특히 그 막스에서 이야기하는 그 세 가지 종류의 다른 렌트, 지대의 개념 범주화가 굉장히 신선했습니다. 그래서 제가 첫 번째는 질문을 드렸는데요. 이 질문이 뭐냐면 아베노믹스가 시작한 게 2013년인데 이것은 전국적인 경제 부흥 정책이었거든요. 그렇다면 전국적인 함의를 가지고 있는 아베노믹스가 왜 도쿄 이외에 일본의 큰 도시 지역들 있죠. 메가시티라고 부르는 큰 지역들이 있죠. 나고야, 오사카, 후쿠오카 같은 지역들이 있잖아요. 그런 지역들에서는 보이지 않는 이런 부동산 재개발을 통한 그 지대추구 그리고 그 채권화의 현상이 도쿄 지역에서만 집중되어서 나타나고 있느냐 하는 질문을 제가 먼저 드렸습니다. Okay, I have finished my interpretation. I'd like to ask you for your insight into that.
Thank you for your question. Yes, you are right. Fukuoka, Osaka, Nagoya, and other big cities, it's proceeding with development projects like Tokyo, but the scale of projects in Tokyo is much larger than any other cities. Quite different. And I guess in the situation of globalization, Japanese economy becomes weaker and weaker, and many business leaders and politicians think just Tokyo can survive by concentrating money and intelligent people concentrating in Tokyo. Just strategy in order that Japanese economy would survive in this period.
Okay, let me interpret. 질문을 해주신 것처럼 일본에는 도쿄 외에도 오사카, 나고야 등과 같은 대도시들이 있습니다. 하지만 도쿄 지역에서만 이런 재개발의 붐이 일어나고 자본의 그 집중이 일어나고 있다는 그런 현상이 목도되고 있습니다. 그래서 이 이유를 살펴보면 일본 경제가 전반적으로 침체의 상황을 지속적으로 겪고 있기 때문에 도쿄 지역에 집중을 하고 전략적인 선택을 해서 개발을 하는 것만이 일본 경제가 살아날 수 있는 전략이라는 그런 관점에서 다른 큰 지역에서는 목도되고 있지 않은 이런 부동산 재개발 붐이 일어나고 있다고 생각됩니다. Okay, thank you for your answer. And my second comment is about comparison between Korea and Japan.
Yeah, please.
Actually, the amount of concentration in the Seoul area, in the case of South Korea, is a lot more intense when compared to that of Tokyo area. For instance, the
Mm.
total population of South Korea is about 53 million, out of which more than 10 million people live in the Seoul metropolitan area. That's about more than 20%.
Mhm.
Excuse me. I think it's 25%. Between 20 and 25%.
Mhm.
Compared to the level of population concentration in the Tokyo area in Japan, I don't think it's that severe. I could be wrong. So what I'm trying to say is the problems related to concentration of large number of population in the Seoul area, in the case of South Korea, can be a lot more severe than that of Tokyo.
Yeah.
So that would be my comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
예, 그리고 방금 제가 코멘트를 하나 드렸는데요. 그 한일 비교에 대해서 궁금하다고 그 발표 그 초반에 그 모두의 말씀을 하셨기 때문에 한국의 경우가 일본의 경우보다 경제 집중, 수도권 지역으로의 경제 집중 현상이 더 심각하지 않을까라는 생각을 말씀을 드렸어요. 왜냐하면 한국의 인구가 지금 5,300만 정도 되거든요. 그런데 그 1,000만 이상의 인구가 수도권 지역에 집중되어 있어요. 그런데 일본 같은 경우는 이 정도로 심한 인구 집중 현상이 도쿄 지역에서는 발생하고 있지 않다는 것이 저의 이해입니다. 왜냐하면 이거는 여러 가지 이유가 있는데요. 역사적인 이유도 있고, 지방 분권의 문제도 있고, 일본이라는 국가가 생긴 지형의 문제도 있는 것 같아요. 그래서 서울과 도쿄를 비교를 했을 때 아마 이런 그 인구 그리고 자본 집중의 현상이 일본보다는 한국이 더 심하지 않을까라는 코멘트를 드렸습니다. 그리고 지금부터는 from now on, anyone in the audience, if you have a question, I would be more than happy to interpret your question if asked in Korean into English. Okay? 저기 혹시 질문 있으시면 한국어나 영어 다 괜찮으시고요. 질문하시면 제가 그 영한으로 통역을 해드리겠습니다. 그래서 마음 편하게 드시고 궁금한 점 있으시면 질문해 주시길 바랍니다.
May I ask you on your comments?
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, I heard the concentration in Seoul is very severe. Yeah. And the population rate in Seoul is very high. It's higher than Tokyo. I heard so. Yes, but my question is, why is it possible? I mentioned, for example, securitization of real estate or subsidies by the local government and so on. Regarding money investment. In Korea, why why is it possible regarding huge concentration?
저기 아까시 스님께서 제가 했던 코멘트에 대해서 질문을 한 게 하셨어요. 그 질문의 내용이 뭐냐면 선생님께서 들으시기로도 일본 도쿄 지역과 비교했을 때 한국의 서울의 집중도, 인구와 자본의 집중도가 훨씬 더 높다는 말씀을 들으셨다고 하거든요. 그래서 그 이유가 궁금하다고 하셔서 제가 그냥 잘 모르지만 아는 대로 말씀을 드릴 테니까 혹시 제가 잘못 말씀을 드린다든지 제가 드리는 말씀에서 빠지는 부분이 있으면 그 여러분들께서 좀 채워주시고 고쳐주시기를 바랍니다. I think there are multiple reasons why South Korea's capital area has heavier concentration of population and capital vis-a-vis Japan's Tokyo. First, I think it has something to do with history. What I mean by history is that Japan has longer history of devolution, where regional governments were able to exercise their autonomy from the capital of Tokyo. Korean history of devolution started basically from early 2000 under Romean administration. So we have about 25 years of regional development and devolution. So Korea has short history of regional growth and distribution compared to Japan, which has, I think, longer history, long before the Edo era. And the second one, I think, has a lot to do with geography. Korea is a peninsula, and the shape of the South Korea allows easier traveling path and distance. So it's easier for the people and money to travel to the Seoul area, while Japan is archipelago, stretching all the way from Hokkaido to Okinawa. So concentration of population, I think, is geographically more difficult in the case of Japan. 자, 여기까지만 제가 통역을 할게요. 첫 번째 제가 생각하는 이유는 역사적인 이유인데 한국 같은 경우는 지방분권이라는 것이 사실은 노무현 정권 때부터 시작된 거거든요. 2000년부터예요. 2000년 초반부터예요. 그래서 역사가 짧아요. 일본 같은 경우는 18세기 에도 시대 훨씬 전부터 전국 시대부터 사실은 굉장히 강한 지역색이 있었기 때문에 일본 같은 경우 여러 지역에서 도쿄로 집중되는 역사적인 경험이 작은 거예요. 역사적으로 지방 분권의 역사가 일본 같은 경우는 길고 한국은 짧아요. 네, 그런 경우가 한 가지 있는 것 같고 두 번째는 지형이 문제인 것 같아요. 남한 같은 경우는 반도의 끝에 있죠. 그래서 물자와 사람 그리고 돈이 한 곳으로 이동하기가 편리해요. 그런데 일본 같은 경우는 동북쪽의 홋카이도에서부터 남서쪽의 오키나와까지 굉장히 지형이 그 열도로 펼쳐져 있잖아요. 그래서 이동이 쉽지가 않다는 생각이 들어요. So basically, I can think of two reasons. And when it comes down to government deregulation, allowing redevelopment projects to prosper in the case of Japan, South Korean governments at various levels, central and regional governments in particular, they also have been deregulating. But and also, I'm going to delete the bad part, and also South Korean real estate development had similar conditions such as government deregulation and subsidies and very active regeneration of wealth at the hands of the real estate developers. So those are the similarities. 여기서 제가 또 한 가지 부연 설명을 드렸는데 굉장히 사실은 한국과 일본 사이에 비슷한 점도 많은 것 같아요. 첫 번째는 뭐냐면 그 규제 완화를 한국도 일본처럼 많이 한 것 같아요. 많이 해서 부동산 개발업자들이 그 빚도 없고 부채도 없고 그 정부에서 풀어준 여러 규제들을 이용을 해서 부동산 개발에 뛰어들고 거기서 부를 창출했다는 이런 면에서 한국과 일본이 비슷할 수도 있다는 점을 부연 설명으로 말씀을 드렸습니다. 자, 저는 이 정도로 말하면 되니까 혹시 여러분들 중에서 궁금한 점, 질문하고 싶은 점 계시면 해주시면 좋겠어요. I think I have said enough. So I have asked the audience to ask any question without getting too nervous or too fearful, because I'm going to help them to by translating, interpreting whatever language they use.
Thank you for your presentation, Professor Takashi. And in my case, researching banks and credit theory based on Marx economics. And I think that the real estate and the land problem is also related to the banks. Yes, to provide the money by themselves. And in the case of Japan, the interest rate is very low since 1990s after the end of bubble economy. And actually in Japan, banks have no any opportunities to get the interest from the industrial sectors, because yes, a lot of a lot of companies in Japan, they also have a lot of money, and after the end of bubble economy, they reduce the income of laborers. So to research or to analyze this like problem of real estate and the land problem, at the first we needed to consider the activity or the behavior of banks in your country. What do you think about this like problem?
네,
아.
서 선생님, 그
아, 네.
좋은 질문 해주셨는데, 선생님 질문 한국어로도 좀
네.
설명해 주시면
아, 네.
제가 너무 감사하겠습니다.
아니. 일본에서, 저는 그 은행이랑 그다음 신용이론, 금융이론 연구하고 있는데, 제 입장에서는 이제 부동산 문제나 아니면 토지 문제를 다룰 때 당연히 그 자금을 공급하는 은행을 같이 고려할 필요가 있다고 생각을 했거든요. 근데 특히 일본에서는 1990년대 버블 경제가 끝난 다음에 이제 이자율이 낮아지고, 그랬으니까 은행으로서는 이제 산업 부분에 자금을 공급해가지고 이자를 얻기가 힘든 상황이 일단 첫 번째가 있고, 그다음 일본 기업으로부터도 일본 기업들은 1990년대 버블이 끝난 다음에도 이제 실질 소득을 낮추면서 최근엔 이제 명목 소득도 낮아지고 있었던 문제가 있었는데, 그렇기 때문에 일본은 기업들의 산의 유혹이 굉장히 많거든요. 그래서 은행에 자금을 공급받지 않아도 충분히 활동할 수 있는 여력이 있으니까 기업들이 은행에 대한 자금 수요가 더 낮아지고 있는 상황이었기 때문에, 그렇기 때문에 은행으로서는 돈을 벌기 위해 새로운 영역을 개발할 수밖에 없고 그게 부동산이 아닐까 생각이 들었어요. 그래서 일본에서 지금 부동산이나 이제 토지 문제를 다룬다면 은행이랑 같이 엮어서 고민해봐야 되지 않을까라고 질문 드렸습니다.
Okay. Mr. So just has expressed his opinion in the Korean language. And Professor Akashi, if you can address his question about the role of banks and its changing policies to generate the profits by diverting its loan policies, lending policies to real estate developers, we would be very grateful.
Thank you very much for your question. And after the bubble economy, Japanese bank had huge bad loans, and they wanted to reduce these bad loans. And it was very important for Japanese economy. And the securitization helped Japanese bank by the financial innovation. And what should I say? Yeah, of course, as you said, the interest rate, it has been very low for a long time, and it was very difficult for Japanese bank to earn. And it was advantageous for Japanese bank to enter real estate market because they could depend on housing loan, and Japanese government reduced governmental financial institutions regarding real estate market. It means Japanese bank has gotten the new market to earn. Before that, governmental institution supplied housing loan. Instead, Japanese private bank entered this real estate market. It was a huge policy change.
네, thank you. I'm going to interpret your answer. 저기 선생님께서 말씀하신 것처럼 1980년대 말, 1990년대 초에 일본 경제에서 버블이 붕괴가 됐죠. 버블이 붕괴가 되면서 선생님 잠깐만 오디오 좀 꺼주시겠어요?
죄송합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 버블이 붕괴가 되면서 어떤 현상이 발생했냐면 은행의 불량 채권들이 증가를 했어요. 이거는 너무 당연한 현상이죠. 돈을 빌려줬는데 이거를 갚을 수 있는 여력이 있는 그 대출자들의 경제적인 여력이 감소했기 때문에 불량 채권이 증가할 수밖에 없었어요. 그래서 은행이 살기 위해서 금융개혁을 했거든요. 금융개혁은 어떤 거냐면 주로 불량 채권의 그 빈도수를 감소를 시키고 그리고 아주 오랫동안 지속되어 왔던 낮은 이자율 정책을 바꾸는 거였거든요. 그래서 기존의 개인들을 향한 주택담보대출은 줄이고 개인주택담보 대신에 기업 내지는 부동산 시장으로 은행들이 눈을 돌리면서 새로운 생존 전략을 마련하기 시작했고요. 그러면 개인들은 어떻게 생존할 수 있었냐? 기존의 은행 대출 대신 정부가 나서서 개인들이 주택을 구매할 수 있도록 대출을 해주기 시작했다는 거예요. 이런 식의 변화가 있었기 때문에 선생님께서 말씀하신 것처럼 은행의 역할이 굉장히 중요하고 경제적인 상황에 따라서 은행들이 다른 정책들을 실시해왔다라는 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. 네.
죄송합니다. 질문 하나만 더 해도
네.
될까요?
영어로 하시고 또 한글로 해주시면 너무 감사하죠.
Yeah. I thank you for your yes. Yes, I can understand the change of policy in your country and the behavior of the banks. Thank you. And the last question, you mentioned, yes, in your PowerPoint, you mentioned about the RMBS and CMBS. Yes, like the residential mortgage-backed security and the commercial mortgage-backed security. I think that this is something like the securitization of the real estate by the banks. And then in 2008 to 2009 in the USA, they also had the problem CDO, that's collateralized debt obligation. Yes. To connect its debt and make the security, yes, for investment method. And yes, my question is that what is the differences between CDO in USA and RMBS or CMBS in your country?
네, 선생님 한글로도
아,
좀
아,
설명을 해주시면
네, 감사합니다. 네.
감사하겠습니다.
네. 제가 질문한 거는 은행이 부동산을 증권화시키는 거에 대해서 질문을 드렸는데요. 이제 여러분들도 잘 아시겠지만 2008년이나 2009년에 미국에서 금융위기가 있었는데 그때 가장 큰 문제가 됐던 게 이제 서프라임 모기지 사태니까 그때 CDO니까 CDO가 한국말로 뭐죠? 그 여러 가지 채권을 우량 채권이나 비우량 채권을 부동산 관련 우량 채권, 비우량 채권 묶어가지고 하나의 금융상품으로 만들어가지고 그거를 이제 투자회사를 통해서 다시 판 다음에 거기에서 자금을 끌어들이는 문제인데 근데 거기에서 이제 대출 부도 사건이 발생하니까 이게 연쇄적으로 발생한 문제였잖아요. 그래서 미국에서 CDO 문제가 있었는데 근데 아카시 교수님께서 구체에도 한번 보준 거 감사합니다. 감사합니다. 근데 일본에서는 어떤 문제가 있었냐면 아까 교수님 말씀하신 게 CNBC니까 CNBS구나. 그 다음에 RMBS는 거주자 모기지 기초 증권이라고 할까요? 또는 상업용 부동산 모기지 증권이라고 할까요? 이렇게 해서 부동산의 증권화가 이루어졌는데 이런 일본의 부동산 증권화랑 미국의 부동산 증권화가 어떻게 다른지 질문했습니다.
Okay. I know very little about this highly professional and technical question, but it seems like he is asking you to compare the differences between the US CDO, which was prominent during 2007-2008 Lehman financial shock, and what has been going on with Japanese banks regarding property redevelopment projects.
Thank you for professional question. Now, I guess there are some experts tonight. So I guess, for example, Dr. John Kuhyun can answer very well. But as far as I know, CDO is very similar to RMBS or CMBS. And yeah, CDO is very complicated commodities. But basically, we can say the securitization of loan receivable is a financial technique of issuing new securities, collateral or some kind of assets, which can generate cash flow, according to Professor Ogura. This is a basic definition of on the securitization commodities, financial commodities. And of course, this type of securitization has a lot of problems, and they face the risk of collapse. And I can say RMBS and CMBS is based on real estates. CDO is probably CDO can probably be related to another asset. It's true?
Yes, on my understanding, I think so. In the USA, CDO is also based on the real estate of
Really? Eh? Alone?
Yeah.
Really? I don't think so.
I I will check after this. Yes, this PowerPoint and your presentation. Thank you. Sure, no problem.
Thank you very much.
네.
You can ask another expert.
Like 장구현?
Yeah.
네, 굉장히 그 전문적인 지식을 요하는 질문을 해주셔서 이런 부분에 대해서 전문적인 지식을 가지고 계시는 선생님들께서도 좀 이렇게 같이 참여하셔서 답변을 해주시면 좋겠다라는 말씀을 하시면서, 제가 이해하기로는 세 가지 포인트예요. 첫 번째 포인트는 뭐냐면, 부채담보부 증권이라는 CDO가 2007년, 8년 미국에서 일어났던 리만 쇼크와 지금 진행 중인 일본의 경우와 어떻게 다르게 작동하느냐에 관한 질문을 하신 것 같은데, 아카시 선생님의 이해로는 이 CDO가 양국에서 거의 비슷하게 작동하고 있다라는 말씀을 하신 게 한 가지 포인트고요. 자, 두 번째 포인트는 뭐냐면, CDO 이외에도 RMBS, CMBS와 같은 금융 상품들이 나오고 있습니다. 그런데 이런 금융 상품들은 아까 선생님께서 이해하시기로는 거의 부동산에만 관련된 금융 파생 상품으로 알고 계시는데, 그러면서 이게 채권화에 관한 문제도 말씀을 하셨거든요. 결국은 이게 뭐냐면 담보 대출에 그러니까 대출을 해서 상환받아야 되는 이런 금융 상품이죠. 은행에서 빌려주는 자본의 경우 거의 담보를 잡잖아요. 담보를 잡고 있기 때문에 RMBS나 CMBS의 경우 굉장히 문제가 많고, 그 문제가 많은 이유는 뭐냐 하면 이 상품 자체로 작동되는 시스템이 붕괴될 위험 또는 가능성이 많기 때문에 그러하다라는 말씀을 하신 것 같아요. 문외한인 제가 이해하기에. 그리고 세 번째는, 그러면 CDO의 경우는 RMBS나 CMBS와 같이 부동산을 담보로 잡아서 대출을 하는 것이 아니라 다른 자산도 담보로 잡느냐, 이런 문제에 관한 세 번째 의견을 주셨는데, 여기서는 선생님이랑 아까 선생님이랑 약간 견해가 달랐던 것 같아요. 그러니까 CDO 같은 경우에는 부동산도 포함을 해서 대출을 하느냐, 아니면 부동산을 제외한 다른 자산만을 잡느냐, 이런 부분에 대해서 두 분 의견이 계셨던 것 같고, 아까 선생님께서 정구현 박사님을 소환을 하셨어요. 정구현 박사님 전문가시니까 정구현 박사님께서 의견도 좀 주시면 어떻겠느냐라는 말씀을 하셨어요. 네, 여기까지 제가 이해한 바고 여기까지 통역 겸 설명이었습니다. 정세님 잘 안 들려요.
Uh, yeah. I'm not familiar with the concept the CDO, so I cannot comment on that. Sorry, but thank you, Professor Akashi, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
I also forget to greet Dr. Song Kwang-seo earlier, but it's nice to see both of you again after our meeting in Tokyo last summer.
Yeah.
Today, Professor Akashi explained Tokyo's redevelopment using Marx's theory of ground rent. I listened to the presentation while comparing it to the situation in Korea. Earlier, Professor Kim Mi-kyung also mentioned that the historical and geographical reasons for the extreme concentration of population in the Seoul metropolitan area. The sharp rise in housing costs is putting considerable pressure on the working class under stagnant wages, which seems to be a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
I have heard that this problem is particularly serious in Europe, such as Germany or Britain. In Korea, so-called liberal government, Nomu현, Moon Jae-in government, have attempted to intervene in the sharp rise in housing prices, but these attempts have paradoxically led to further increases in housing prices. In Korea and Japan, what efforts can we make to counter housing price increases and protect the right to housing? Are there any related social movements in Japan that you could introduce? That's my question.
네,
Thank you.
정 박사님 흥미로운 질문 해주셨는데 한글로도 좀 해주시면 감사하겠습니다.
아, 네. 일단 뭐 CDO 개념에 대해서는 제가 잘 모르기 때문에 죄송하지만은 두 분께 이렇게 말씀드릴 수 있는 게 없고요. 공부를 좀 더 해서 이렇게 말씀을 드리도록 하겠습니다. 예. 네, 제 질문은 뭐였냐면 이제 도쿄 재개발을 마르크스 지대론과 관련해서 이렇게 설명을 해주셨는데 이런 어떤 특히 이제 지금 특히 도쿄의 집값이 지금 거의 그 버블 경제 수준 그 이상으로도 지금 치솟고 있다고 또 말씀해 주셨잖아요. 근데 이런 어떤 현상들이 되게 글로벌적인 현상인 것 같다. 특히 유럽에서도 이런 문제가 되게 심각하다고 많이 들었었거든요. 근데 한국 같은 경우는 이제 이런 한국도 주택 가격이 굉장히 지난 정부 때 또 높게 상승하기도 했죠. 사실은 특히나 이상하게도 자유주의 정권이 이렇게 정권을 잡았을 때 노무현 정권, 문재인 정권 때 특히 이제 집값이 너무 많이 올랐기도 하거든요. 그러니까 그 집값을 잡으려고 개입을 하는 경우를 또 막는 어떤 그런 현상들이 있기도 했었는데 혹시 이제 한국과 일본 다른 나라에서도 마찬가지로 우리가 이런 어떤 주택 가격 상승에 맞서서 할 수 있는 게 뭐가 있을까? 이렇게 주택 가격이 일방적으로 상승하는 상황에서 더군다나 노동계급의 어떤 임금은 정체하고 있는 상황에서 이게 굉장히 부담이 되고 있는데 어떤 우리가 시도들을 할 수 있을까? 일본에서 혹시 이거와 관련돼서 좀 이루어지고 있는 사회 운동이 있다면 저희한테 소개시켜 주실 만한 것이 있을까? 좀 이렇게 좀 여쭤봤습니다.
In Japan, I'm very sad. We can see no social action against this phenomenon. I don't know why, but it's Japanese culture, maybe. But many people come to Tokyo and they purchase high price house, and we pay high rent for small house. It's typical lifestyle in Tokyo, including university students. Yeah, in Korea, I guess there are a lot of social actions.
In fact, no. There, in Korea also, we don't have any social movement about this housing problem. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah. But I've heard that in Germany, there's some movement like 그 독일을 그 뭐라고 해야 될까요? 그 이제 그 임대료를 완전히 제한하는 그 베를린에 어떤 법안이 있다 그런 것도 들었던 것 같거든요.
네.
예,
그
예,
일정 기간 동안 임대료를
네.
올리지 못하는 법이 있죠.
예, 예.
그런데 한국 같은 경우도 전세 계약을 의무적으로 2년으로 묶어둔다든지, 그래서 그 소유주가
네.
이렇게 임의로 쫓아낸다든지 할 수 없도록 하는 그런 법은 있죠.
법은 뭐 그런 건 있는 것 같습니다. 근데 사회적 운동 차원에서는 왜냐면 이제 그런 베를린의 법안들은 다 이제 그 사회 운동에서 이제 어떤 발전해서 거기 이제 정책적으로 입안된 거라고 제가 들었던 것 같아서요. 네.
오케이. 구현, in responding to you, Guyon asked us whether we knew anything about German experience regarding rent-related social movements. And I told him that I've heard of an act. It's not a law, an act in the case of city of Berlin, which freezes rent increase in order to protect the tenant. And I also mentioned that actually that was a citizens initiative. Citizens mobilized the lawmakers in the city of Berlin to pass that act. But in the case of South Korea, the law stipulates that the rental contract is valid for at least 2 years in order to prevent the owner to vacate the tenant at the whims. So 2-year rental period is legally guaranteed. But Guyon pointed out that this was not citizens' initiative, but it was on the part of the government.
So, by Moon Jae-in?
I don't know. I don't remember which specific period, but it must be. 저기 한국 같은 경우는 2년 임대차를 보증하는 그 법이 언제 통과가 됐죠?
정확히 모르겠으면 그건 굉장히 오래된 법안.
문재인 때보다 오래된 것 같지 않아요?
예, 그런 것 같은데.
We don't know.
민주노동당 시절에 만든 겁니다.
민주노동당.
예, 그러니까 그게 아마 거의 제정 자체는 1981년부터 있긴 있었는데 그 대학력이나 이런 거는 민주노당 때였으니까 아마 2000년대 초중반쯤 그게 그러니까 개정이 돼가지고 도입이 됐을 겁니다.
네. Your student 오병환 just has pointed out that
제가 알기에는 그 2024년에 더불어민주당 주도 국회에서 그 김비경 박사님께서 말씀하신 그 구체적인 임대차 문제가 그 법안이 수정돼 가지고 지난해 통과됐습니다. 그리고 제가 정구현 그 교수님의 말씀에 의견을 달리한다거나 무슨 반박한다는 그런 의미는 아닌데 그 빈곤 사회 연대라고 있습니다. Solidarity Against Poverty in Korean Society. 그 빈곤 사회 연대. 거기에서 big scale all fledged in Korean society struggling
against rent problem. It's not all-fledged. It's not our society in each corner, but even though partially and with their limit of action budget, their organization boundary limit, 빈곤사회연대, solidarity against illegal rent and big capitals illegal activity in Korean society, they are working now. So 제가 정고현 박사님 말씀에 반박하는 것이 아니고 그런 작은 조직이지만 빈곤사회연대에서 하고 있다는 걸 말씀드리고, 그리고 김비경 선생님께서 이제 아까 이 토론 질문 과정 거의 초기 부분에 1000만 정도를 놓고 서울 인구를 말씀하시고 이제 그랬는데, 그 말씀하신 것은 이제 아까시 교수님께서 말씀하신 그 내용에 부합하는 일본과 한국과의 비교, 이제 그것을 말씀하셨는데, 이럴 경우에는 우리는 1000만보다는 20 million population in South Korea, not just 10 million, because we need to include Gyeonggi province and Seoul megacity, Seoul region, because Gyeonggi province and Seoul almost in and out one working cluster, and manufacturing and in production, and also bourgeoisie political power, everything when we consider. 그래서 아마 2000만으로 놓고 말하는 것이 더 좋겠다는 저의 의견을, 제가 역시 김미영 선생님의 의견에 반박하는 것이 아니라, 말씀은 전적으로 옳은데 이럴 경우에는 아카시 교수님의 그 논문 취지에 맞게 말하기 위해서는 아마 우리가 경기도를 포함한 2000만의 시각으로 봐야 하는 것이 옳겠다는 생각이 듭니다. 길어서 미안합니다.
Okay, we just are experiencing fantastic collection of wisdom among the participants. Let me summarize and interpret our collected wisdom in rather brief terms. One, the history to protect tenants' rights in Korea started in early 1980s. Oh Byung-hun, your student has mentioned, actually started in 1981. And it became a solid national policy platform in early 2000 under the Norman administration. And last year, the opposition party, Democratic Party of Korea, revised the law and passed it in order to better protect the tenants' rights. And this was the brief review of history in terms of law enactment. And Mr. Jung has mentioned that he wanted to add one piece of information on Korean people's social activism in order to protect tenants' rights. And then he mentioned a small size organization under the name of Solidarity Against Poverty in South Korea. And they have been pushing for the better protection of tenants' rights in South Korea, even though the impact of their activism has been relatively limited, but they have been in action. And Mr. Jung wanted to add one more information regarding heavier concentration of population in the Seoul area compared to Tokyo area. He says Seoul area actually has 11 million population. That is statistically correct. But we need to consider the Seoul metropolitan area by including the Gyeonggi province, which is within 1 hour traveling distance from Seoul. So when we consider the population size of the vicinity, the number can increase to 20 million. So in other words, the level of population concentration in the case of South Korea can be much heavier than that of Tokyo. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Important information.
You're welcome. 네, 정생님.
Thank you very much for your very interesting, and I learned very much. Yeah, your presentation and articles always is full of insights. So we may proceed study is the comparison of Tokyo and Seoul by using your reinterpretive Marxian theory of rent. Because of this lack of time, I just would like to raise, although I have a lot of issues to discuss with you, just two small questions. In your figure graph that shows the correlation between the value of residential area in Tokyo and the floor area ratios of 23 wards of Tokyo. It's very interesting, and I think it is it's right. There's a positive correlation between the floor area ratios and the price of the condominium. But my question is that as for the Minato words, you interpreted the difference, is a gap or deviation of the price of condominium and floor area ratio. Is you interpreted this figures as a phenomenon of a bubble. But in Korea, for example, in Korea, it could be the reverse. Because in Korea, for example, in the Seoul area, it is the redeveloping urban district. If the floor area ratio is low, that is evidence that it has the potential of a future rise of the price of a residential area. Because it's so I don't think it shows, rather than it shows the future possibility of the future further rise of the that price of condominium in Minota area. So that's my just one question. And the second question is that, so I found your idea of the distinguishing the Marxian concept of rent and the capital incorporated into the rent, or the interest on the capital incorporated into rent. That is so, and you included like the nice view from the upper floors or the interior design or brand. That is the examples of the capital incorporated into the land. But by the way, for example, the nice view that could not be, although, yeah, it could be built, but it itself it cannot be considered a kind of land, a kind of capital.
Mm.
And so it looks that do you want to justify the high price of condominium in terms of the capital incorporated into the building of that condominium? Yeah, and my last question is that you, in the future expectation or anticipation, you anticipated a crisis or crisis of the bubble, and mentioning that the recent decrease in the sale of the condominium in the 23 wards of Tokyo, and you explained that in terms of the rise of the cost, especially the labor cost and the building material cost.
Yeah.
But I also have some the issue with your interpretation, because in Korea the cost nowadays does not matter so much in the anticipation or expectation of the price of the real estate or building. So what is the most important is the possible rise or fall of that real estate or the site of the redeveloping zone. Is there a possibility to further rise or stagnating rather than the cost of building? Because,
네,
I would like to stop here.
정 선생님, 제가 선생님 차별하지 않고 선생님께서도 질문하신 내용을 한글로 좀 해주시면 감사하겠습니다.
제가 너무 시간 많이 좀 잡아먹어갖고.
괜찮아요. 안 그래도 제가 통역하는 것보다 선생님께서
제가 그 첫 번째, 감사합니다.
네.
그러면 제가 아마 아시겠지만 다시 짧게 설명을 하자면요. 제 질문은 아카시 선생님 발표로부터 굉장히 많이 배웠다는 거 하고요. 특히 우리 아카시 선생님 제자분들도 계시고, 또 우리가 그동안 일본 고마자와 대학하고 교류하면서 네트워크가 있지 않습니까? 그래서 그것에 기반해서 오늘 아카시 선생님 굉장히 중요한 그런 발표를 하셨는데, 그걸 도쿄에 대해서 하셨는데, 이걸 아주 비슷한 상황이 우리 한국에도 벌어지고 있지 않습니까? 그래서 그런 국제 비교 연구 같은 것을 한번 해보면 좋겠다라고 그런 제안을 드렸고요. 그리고 질문이 좀 많지만 한 3가지 정도 드렸는데, 첫 번째 질문은 뭐냐면 발표 중에 파워포인트 슬라이드 중에 나와 있는 그림이거든요. 거기에 보면 도쿄 23개 특별구라는 데가 있잖아요. 특별구의 컨도미니움 가격하고, 그러니까 집값이죠. 아파트 값하고 그거 아마 용적률이라고 번역된 거 맞겠죠? 플로어.
네, 용적률이에요.
우리말로 하면 용적률인 것 같은데,
네네.
용적률하고 그걸 보면 쫙 플러스 상관관계가 있잖아요.
네.
그래서 그거는 제가 볼 때는 어떻게 보면 당연한 거라고 생각을 합니다. 용적률이 높아서 높게 지었으니까 거기 집들이 많이 들어가 있으니까
그렇죠.
집값이 높은 것은 어떻게 보면 당연한데, 그래서 그 점은 제가 근데 그걸 우리 아카시 선생님께서 굉장히 많이 말씀을 하셔서, 근데 앞으로 버블에 대해서 오늘 거품에 대해서도 많이 이야기를 하셨거든요. 거품에 대해서 거기 보면 항구라고 하는 데 있잖아요.
네,
미노타구, 23개 구 중에서 도쿄항 가까운데.
네네, 미나토쿠랑.
거기에는 보니까 용적률보다 보니까 가격이 훨씬 더
맞아요.
네. 아파트 값이
비쌌어요.
높은 걸로 돼 있는데, 요게 버블의 표시다라고 그렇게 말씀을 하셨는데, 제가 한국 경우는 그 반대인 것 같다. 이제 한국 경우에는 어디 그 재개발 지구라든가 한국 같으면 이제 재건축 이런 거 하잖아요. 어느 지구가 이제 재건축 들어갈 때 그 재건축 들어간 그 아파트 단지가 앞으로 그 단지가 이제 또 거래가 된다는 이야기죠, 아파트가. 이제 그때 보면 그 용적률이 낮은 그 아파트 단지의 아파트 값이 훨씬 높거든요. 왜냐하면 이미 이제 용적률이 다 이제 이게 규제가 있습니다. 규제대로 다 높게 지었을 경우에는 그걸 다시 리디벨롭, 재건축하더라도 더 집을 올릴 수가 없잖아요. 그러니까 집값은 또 올라갈 수가 없는 거죠. 근데 대개 보면 이제 앞으로, 그러니까 향후 이제 그래서 그 갭이라고 하는 게 그 반대다. 이제 오히려 이렇게 돼 있으면 여기 미노타구 같은 경우에는 오히려 지금 용적률보다 집값이 낮다는 거죠. 이거는 오히려 거꾸로 생각할 수도 있다. 버블이라기보다는 이게 올라갈 때까지 올라서 꺼진다라기보다는 향후 더 상승할 여력이 있는 것이라고도 해석할 수 있는 게 아닌가. 뭐 이런 질문을 드렸고요. 그리고 이제 두 번째는 선생님께서 이제 그 막스의 그 지대론 요걸 이제 그 설명을 하시면서 아주 중요한 오늘 이제 포인트였거든요. 이제 거기에서 이제 건축지 지대 같은 경우에서 이제 보면 거기 토지에 이제 포함되어 있는 그 자본, 이제 거기에 해당하는 그 이자 부분하고 지대는 이제 구별을 해야 된다 이런 말씀을 하시면서 이제 왜 이제 여기 렌트가 이렇게 높을까? 그 렌트에 이제 보면 막스적 의미에서 엄격한 의미에서 이제 그런 엄밀한 의미에서 그 지대뿐만 아니라 여기 보면 토지에 포함되어 있는 거기에 채워되어 있는 그 자본, 거기 이제 말하자면 각종 건설업자라든지 거기 많이 투자를 하잖아요. 그럼 거기에 대한 어떤 이자 같은 것도 사실은 렌트에 포함되는데 그걸 이제 구별해야 된다. 근데 도쿄 같은 데 보면 이게 이제 집값이 높은 이유는 렌트가 높은 이유는 이런 토지에 포함되어 있는 그 자본에 대한 그 이자가 카운트되어 있기 때문에 그렇다라고 이제 그런 말씀을 하셨는데, 이제 제가 그렇다면 이거 꼭 관련해서 두 가지 말씀드렸습니다. 거기에 보면 그 뷰도 이야기를 하고 있거든요. 그러니까 나이스 뷰. 근데 뷰 같은 경우는 이제 물론 아파트를 어떻게 짓느냐에 따라서 없었던 뷰가 이제 만들어질 수도 있겠지만, 사실은 이제 그 뷰라고 하는 것은 이미 예를 들어서 뭐 강변뷰가 나올 수 없는 데서 이걸 아무리 투자를 한다 하더라도 나올 수 있는 건 아니잖아요. 그러니까 그거는 조금 구별하는 게 좋겠다라는 그런 말씀을 드렸고, 그 다음에 이제 그 두 번째는 이렇게, 그러면 선생님께서 이런 원래 렌트가 있고 여기 그 토지에 포함되어 있는 그 자본에 대한 이자도 이제 그 렌트에 이제 구별을 하지만, 그렇다면 선생님께서 이제 말씀하시는 그 버블이라고 하는 게 도대체 뭐냐? 그러면 이것도 이제 그러면 실제 아까 이제 어떤 의제 자본 이걸 이제 말씀을 하셨는데, 그러면 요거는 그렇게 해서 이제 그러면 이게 펀더멘탈이 있다는 건지, 이제 그 질문을 아까 제가 영어로는 말씀을 안 드렸습니다만, 어떤 높은 콘도미니엄 가격, 그것이 이제 가격이 어떤 실질적인 뒷받침이 있다는 건지, 그걸 이제 말씀드렸고요. 물어보았고, 이제 마지막 질문은 이제 뭐냐면, 나중에 이제 앞으로 이제 향후 전망에 대해서 이제 말씀하시더라고요. 근데 이제 최근에 이제 보면 도쿄 그런 아파트 거래, 판매 이런 것들이 이제 줄어들고 있다. 거기 뭐 인구 감소라든가 여러 가지 영향이 있는데, 앞으로 이제 이게 이게 굉장히 이제 지금 뭐 이게 지속될 수 없는 거잖아요. 사실은 일본 같으면 이거는 지진도 많이 나고, 그러니까 이렇게 높이 올리면 안 되는 데잖아요. 근데 이제 막 이제 올라가고 있잖아요. 그래서 이제 이게 결국은 저도 이제 이게 꺼질 거라고 이제 이렇게 생각을 하지만, 그 이유로서 이제 중요한 이유로 이제 생산비를 이제 언급을 하셨거든요. 생산비로 이제 인건비하고 이제 그러니까 아파트 건설할 때 건축 자재비 그걸 이제 드셨는데, 그게 이제 계속 올라가서 이게 좀 수지가 안 맞는, 이렇게 돼서 이제 이게 건축도 좀 줄어들고, 그래서 근데 제가 생각할 때는 그런 지금 보면 서울 같은 데서는 건축비 경우는 크게 이제 어떤 아파트 공급에서 있잖아요. 그건 이제 문제가 안 되는 것 같다는 얘기죠. 업자들이 이제 공급을 많이 할 경우에는 이게 향후 이제 여기서 이제 계속 주택 가격 상승이 예상된다 이러면 이제 하는 거죠. 그리고 최근에 이제 아파트 건축 자재비라든가 생산비는 오히려 제가 알고 있기로는 그렇게 올라가고 있는 거는 아닌 걸로 알고 있거든요. 지금 굉장히 이제 보면 건설 이쪽에도 이제 많은 그 자재 같은 데서도 그 생산에서 이게 그 기술이 이제 좀 이렇게 그 혁신된 기술 같은 것들이 도입되면서 그래서 그 생산비를 이제 그 어떤 향후 버블의 이제 붕괴의 그 요인으로 이제 그 말씀하신 것이 조금 그 궁금해서 이제 그 질문을 드렸던 것입니다.
아카시先生, Professor Jung has interpreted his three questions in Korean. And unless you need further clarifications on his questions, would you please go ahead and answer them?
Yeah,
And
I can.
just
I
in
can
case.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Johnson Dean. Three questions. Thank you. And the first one, I showed the correlation between land price and floor area ratio, not the condominium price, land price. And I said we can see the deviation in Minato word. And it's a kind of my interpretation. But, I mean, this deviation is a result. This deviation doesn't mean the future possibility. This is a result. And how can I say? You mentioned in Korean case, floor area ratio is low or small, but you can see the possibility of rising price for the future investment. It sounds interesting, but
Yes.
I showed figure as a result of investment. I mean, deregulation regarding floor area ratio generated the increasing of profit due to high rising building. That's why the price of land is increasing. But in Minatoku, we can see a phenomena, which is including bubble or speculation. That's why the price of land is increasing beyond the context of high floor area ratio. Sorry, my answer is not clear, but can I move to second one?
Oh yes, I misread that. It's land. Yes. Okay. You mean the land price? Yeah, I will.
Yeah, 토지 가격. 네.
And you said, for example, brand series or nice view from high floor, that is not capital. Yeah, I agree with you, of course. But for example, mainstream economists think nice view from high floor can be the factor generating value added. And the brand series generate or compose value added. Value added can be related to interest. This kind of assets can be the assets bearing interest for the mainstream economists or ordinary people. It's a common understanding in the in the sector of real estate or current economy. I think so. And this is due to confusing the understanding of ground rent. And they always mixed the ground rent proper and the interests on the capital incorporated into the land. The rent can be linked to various factors. I want to emphasize this point. And the third one, professor asked me, as far as I understood, for example, cost rising of construction materials or labor force shortage, these factors can mean the possibility of crisis. You asked me this kind of questions, and I want to answer. Due to cost rising, it can be how can I say? It can sorry. It would be possible that a lot of payment delays or cash flow will stop or delay, and delays in construction process and so on. These factors means disturbing elements of reproduction process as a whole. And so I used Kuruma's interpretation of crisis theory in this understanding. Now we can see many factors disrupting reproduction process. And how can I say? This factor has elasticity, but of course it has a limit. Maybe we will see the limit soon. Sorry, my answer is not clear, but did I answer your questions?
이거 제가 통역을 해드려야 될까요? 지금 시간이 거의 우리가 지금 2시간 넘게 하고 있어서. 그 짧게 그냥 통역해드릴게요. 짧게 줄여서. 자, 첫 번째 질문은 그 도쿄도에 있는 32개 구의 토지 가격과 용적률에 관한 그래프를 보여드린 게 있는데, 그거를 보여드리면서 특히 미나토쿠 같은 경우에는 이게 가격 버블이 있다라는 설명을 하셨고, 여기에 정선희 선생님께서 동의를 하지 않으셨거든요. 다른 해석도 가능하다라는 말씀을 하셨는데, 이게 건축물 가격이 아니라 토지 가격과 용적률을 비교했을 때 아까 선생님께서 말씀하시고 분석하신 부분이 좀 맞지 않겠나라는 부연 설명을 하셨습니다. 제가 모니아이기 때문에 그냥 그런가 보다 하고 저는 넘어갔습니다. 두 번째, 그 막스 이론에서 나오는 랜드 인코퍼레이티드 캐피탈이라는 그게 나오잖아요. 제가 한글로 어떻게 번역하는지를 잘 모르겠는데, 여기에서 뭐 좋은 경관이 있고 뭐 이런 것들을 포함을 해서 계산을 하는데 이것이 과연 타당할까라는 견해를 제시를 하셨고, 아까시 선생님께서는 좋은 경관 등과 같은 이렇게 부차적인 부분도 부가가치를 발생하기 때문에 막스 이론에서 이야기하는 랜드 인코퍼레이티드 캐피탈로 분석을 할 수 있다라는 말씀을 하신 것 같고요. 세 번째, 이게 지금 그 부동산 가격의 미래 예측에 관한 이야기를 그 질문을 하셨는데, 여기서 원자재 값 상승이나 노동 비용의 상승 등을 병선희 선생님께서 말씀을 그런 부분에 대해서 약간 이견을 제시를 하셨는데, 그 아까 선생님께서는 자신의 그 기본적인 견해를 견지를 하시면서 노동 비용, 원자재 가격이 상승하고 있다는 것, 그리고 이런 것들은 상환 지연의 빈도수도 상승을 시키고 현금의 그 움직임 이런 것들도 느리게 한다라는 말씀을 하시면서 이런 분석은 폴 크루만의 재생산 과정 이론을 이렇게 적용하셔서 분석하신 거라고 말씀을 하셨습니다. 예, 저는 지금 일단 사회를 제가 맡기는 하지만 잘 모릅니다. 그 전문을 하시는 쌤들께서 잘 아실 것 같고요. 이 정도로 그냥 이 정도로 굉장히 서울과 도쿄 지역을 비교하면 재밌는 연구가 나올 수 있겠다. 같이 협업을 하면 좋겠다. 이런 것으로 예, 저는 이렇게 좀 이렇게 굉장히 생산적인 예, 의미 부여 그리고 이렇게 상호 배움의 기회 이런 것들을 강조하면서 오늘 그만 이렇게 강연을 그만했으면 좋겠거든요. 자, before we conclude today's lecture, is there anything
Presidential election is forthcoming, and real estate program is a top issue for your vote or not? Sorry. Do you discuss real estate program in your presidential election vote?
I'm sorry, I just got kicked out. So I was making a concluding remark by saying that there is a possibility that we might be able to do a collaborative study comparing between Tokyo and Seoul metropolitan areas in the future. Okay, sorry. Recording has stopped it, and we'd like to say thank you. And hopefully, we'll see you in Seoul in person.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll send you an email. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
先生、
much.
お疲れ様でした。いい勉強になりました。
ありがとうございます。
じゃあ、
Thank you for your
Thank you
translation.
very much.
Thank you very
とんで
much.
もないです。
Please come
はい。
to Tokyo.
ありがとうございます。おやすみなさい。
Thank you very much.